A lot of you golfers probably don't want to spend $800 or $1,000 on a new driver. In this video, I'm breaking down the top 5 drivers under 300 bucks. Let's go. The fact that you can get this for 300 bucks and still hit bombs, whew, talk about a baller on a budget. I've always wanted to get along with ping. That just sounds so good when you hit it, just like a solid whack. A buddy of mine owns a very successful used golf club store called Golf Traders. I asked him what are the top 5 selling drivers under 300 bucks, and this is what he gave me. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them to the mat, hit them, give you my overall feedback, then I'm gonna rank them from 5 to 1. So let's find out what drivers these are. All of these drivers I'm gonna show you guys, you can get for $300 US or less, and at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you where you can pick them up. The first driver I'm gonna show you guys is the Taylormade M3. This is a very popular driver head, and it's actually a driver that I used to play. I got this driver when it was new, and I played it for about 4 years, and very much like you guys, I just couldn't justify spending $700, $800, $900 for a new driver when this thing worked really good. I'm gonna hit it, give you guys some feedback, and I'll tell you a little bit about the M3. So the Taylormade M3 is a 460cc head. It has a carbon top and a silver top line. On the sole of the driver, it has that movable weight system where right now I have the weight at the very front of the driver, but if I wanted, I could move them to a fade or draw bias. And this is awesome for guys that have either a big draw or a big slice, that you can maneuver the weights for the driver head to work best for you. And that's what I love about the M3 is its workability, that you can really customize this driver to you. So let's hit it. If you're a fan of golf equipment like I am, just smash that like button. To get all of the data, I'm using a TrackMan. I'm also using a Pro V1 RCT ball, and where I'm filming today is in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're at about 3,400 feet elevation. So if these numbers look a little bit bigger to you guys that play at sea level, that's why. Let's hit this M3. Oh, there we go. So I will mention to you guys, all of the shafts that I'm gonna be using are a little bit different, but they all have the same characteristics. They're all extra stiff, low launch, low spin, which is typical for what I play. So just take that into account when you see the dispersion. Okay, overall the Taylormade M3 feels awesome, and it sounds really good and looks really good, which is why I included this in the top 5 drivers under 300 bucks. Really quick, let's take a look at some data just to see the results I was getting out of this club head. Okay guys, I'm gonna hit all of these drivers between kind of 8 to 10 times just to give you a good little sample size. Here are all the shots that I just hit with the M3. It looks like all of my shots I'm favoring a draw, which is pretty normal with this M3. I definitely remember slinging some draws. So at the bottom of my screen, you guys can see kind of my averages. So I was averaging 2,700 RPM off the face with spin. Ideally, anything under 3,000 is pretty good. So I'd say that this head so far is fairly low spin. I was getting around 302 carry and a total of 327. So comparing this driver, which is 5, 6 years old, to clubs that are new, it definitely keeps up. So overall, I'm happy to include this into my top 5, but we're gonna have to see how it ranks as I hit these other drivers. Okay, the next driver in my top 5 drivers under 300 bucks is the Titleist TS2. This came out in 2018, so it's about 4 years old. This head is on the more forgiving side. It's a little bit bigger head profile. Titleist also has a TS3, but I wanted to include some drivers for some golfers that might need just a bit more forgiveness. Looking at it, Titleist is known for very clean drivers. It has a glossy black top. The sole is very neutral with a little bit of silver, some gunmetal, and then that TS with the red too. There are no movable weights on this club head. So where we saw the M3 previously, where I can put it on a draw or fade bias, this is pretty much how you get it. If you wanted to change the setting, you can still change it at the hosel. So you can change it into a draw or fade bias at the hosel, but there's nothing on the head to do that. So let's give it some hits, see how it goes. Looking at this driver, you'd have no idea that it's 4 years old. Very solid feedback with that first strike. If any of you golfers are new to the channel, my name's Brandon. I do club reviews just like this. So if you can, smash subscribe. That'll definitely help out the channel. So my first feedback is this TS2 looks awesome at address. If you like those traditional classic heads, you'll definitely like this one. And it feels really good. Titleist has been top of the manufacturers for as long as I can remember. And this TS2 is exactly that. It feels really good. So the feedback across the face is I've had a couple that I know I hit on the toe and a couple I hit square in the center of the club, and they feel pretty similar. So it's interesting to know that even my miss hits still feel really good. Okay, let's see how the Titleist TS2 performed on the TrackMan. Because this is a forgiving head, there's gonna be a little bit more spin. Some of the heads that I chose are low spin drivers. This is not one of them. So right away, I'm looking at my spin rate, and my spin is up at 3,100 RPM. You saw when I was hitting that M3, I had a draw bias. That was still on a neutral setting. With the TS2, I'm hitting it kind of both ways, and I attribute a lot of that to the spin. I was still getting big distance, 291 carry, 311 total. Not the furthest driver I hit, but again, it's keeping up with current technology. So the Titleist TS2 is definitely a good club to pick up, and we'll see at the end how it ranks in my top 5. Some of you golfers that might want more spin are golfers that don't swing it as fast. If you have a slower club head speed, spin will actually do you good. So this is definitely a driver to consider if you have a slower swing speed. Okay guys, the next driver is the Callaway Epic Max LS. If you swing fast, I think this is gonna be a driver that you're going to like. This Epic Max has a very nice, slight carbon crown. It's a little glossy. The sole has the green, white, black, silver accents, and it does have a movable weight system similar to the M3 of the first driver that we hit. This weight can be moved to a heel or toe bias, which is going to give you that draw or fade bias. You can also change the head around to move that to a draw or fade bias. So if you have a big slice or a big hook, this is still a driver that could end up in your bag. Let's hit it and see how it works. Just looking at this thing, it already feels like a beast. I think this thing is gonna fly. Woo! Out of all the swings I've had, that one felt the best. That felt effortless to get through the ball. The fact that you can get this for 300 bucks and still hit bombs, woo! Talk about a baller on a budget. So a buddy of mine that I golf with all the time still uses this driver, and he'll occasionally hit it past me. So shout out to Graham if you're watching. This is Graham's driver, and he likes to tell me when he hits it past me. Put one more on here. This feels really good. This might win. Okay, let's take a look at some data based on the Callaway Epic Max LS. That felt really good, and I don't know why I felt like I could swing the hardest with this. I've been warmed up. I started this test warm, so these feel really good. Okay, let's take a look at some averages. Averaging 300 carry, 324 total. I'm able to put it left and right. So again, that has to do with the shaft. Something I want to talk about really quick about all of these drivers. If you decide to pick up one of these heads, you can go to a place like here at Modern Golf, and one of their pros can fit you into a specific shaft. They can tweak all the settings to make this driver fully custom to you, because chances are wherever you bought it doesn't have the exact settings that you need. So that's one thing to consider to even upgrade your $300 driver. Overall though, with these Callaway numbers, I'm quite impressed with all of them. It is a low spinning head, still at about 2,700 RPM, which is decent. I'd like to get it down a little bit. Keep in mind those are averages, so I'm sure I had some in the 2,200 range, and then some spin got up to maybe 3,300. This is just an average. The way it looks, the way it feels, this is a serious contender to be in the top end of my top 5. Let's check out the next driver. Next driver I got is the Cobra Rad Speed. This Cobra probably has the coolest or the funkiest sole out of all of the drivers that I picked up. Looking at the sole, it has that bright lime green, black, and white accents. I think this looks awesome. If you're less of a traditionalist and you like things that are out there, you like things that are a little flashy, you probably already gravitate towards Cobra, and I'm really excited to hit this. What's different with this driver versus a lot of the ones that I've already hit is it has a milled face. All the other faces have been flat or smooth, but Cobra has this milled face, so we'll see if that gives us any better results. Overall, it looks really good. It has no movable weights on the back. Something you could do if you wanted this weight at the back, you could buy a lighter or heavier one. So I guess technically you could change it, but there's no weight track system to move it to a draw or fade bias. If you wanted to do that, you got to do it in the hosel, which basically every driver that I brought has a hosel setting that you can change it to a fade or draw bias. Let's hit the Cobra Rad Speed and we'll find out where it ends up. So another unique feature about this Cobra Rad Speed is the head. The head is matte and the other ones have been glossy, and right around the edges there's still that white and green stripe. So visually I think it looks the coolest out of all the drivers we have. Let's see how the results look. I think it feels really good. Again, the feedback across the face feels awesome. Maybe that has something to do with the milling on the face. I can feel a little bit of difference between the toe, heel, and center. When I catch it square in the middle, it feels awesome. It feels as good or better as everything that we've hit so far. From all of my hits so far, I'm really digging this Cobra. Okay, there's a sample. Okay guys, that Cobra felt really good and I love the way that it looks. I'm not so much of a traditionalist that I love the color combo of the Rad Speed. Let's look at my numbers and see what TrackMan is saying we did. Okay, to give you a sample size, I'm going to consider the Rad Speed a low spin head. Cobra has been killing it with low spin off of some of their driver heads, and I think it all started with this Rad Speed. I was averaging about 2,500 RPM, which is like super ideal. Carry was 294, total 324, and my dispersion was decent. Everything was in play. Again, dispersion is more shaft, but that head felt awesome. I felt like I could move the ball, I could maneuver it if I wanted to, and overall, I think this is gonna be a contender in the top 5. We got one more driver to go. Let's look at it. Okay guys, the last driver in my top 5 drivers under 300 bucks is the Ping G410 LST. This is another low spinning head, so if you have a moderately fast swing speed, this could be very good for you. Visually, this thing looks wicked. This has the perfect combo of traditional colors, but a modern look. So looking at the crown, Ping has kind of these raised ribs right behind the face, and I'm kind of take it or leave it. It's different, it's unique, it makes it stand out. Do I like it, do I not like it? I'm kind of unbiased. Looking at the sole, again, neutral colors, some blacks, gray, gunmetal, a little bit of red, and it has a movable weight system. Again, you can move this to a fade or draw bias. So the way this movable weight system works on the Ping and all the other drivers that have a movable track system, if I put the weight to the fade setting, it's gonna help keep the face open a little longer. Vice versa with the draw setting, I put the weight on the heel, which would be draw bias. It's gonna help close it faster. So it's just one more cool thing you can do to customize your driver. Again, like all the other drivers, you can change it at the hosel on a fade or draw bias. This thing looks awesome. I can't wait to hit it. Let's see how it goes. That dispersion's perfect. If I had a 20-yard cut every time, I would take that. I've always wanted to get along with Ping. That was better, 2,700. Okay guys, let's see how this Ping performed on the TrackMan. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed in this session with the Ping G410 LST is that I was still getting pretty high spin. So some things to consider when looking at spin. I could play around with the settings, move it maybe to an 8 or a 7.5, like I could loft it down, or I could play around with the shaft. Because all these shafts are different, that's why my dispersion is a little different. If I wanted to play around with this, find a shaft with a different kick point, I may get better results, but this is all that we had for the Ping. Looking at the numbers everyone cares about, the carry and total, I was getting around 293 carry and 313 total. Overall, it felt really good and it sounded really good. Out of all the drivers that I had, there's not one that I'm gonna kind of shit on. They all feel really good, and I guess that's why these 5 drivers still sell really well. What I'm gonna do now is I'm going to rank them to tell you guys my top 5 drivers under 300 bucks. So something really quick I wanted to show you guys was the dispersion. Let's look at the M3. Look how tight my dispersion was all around that 300-yard line. I had a pretty routine draw going and it felt really good swinging it. This next one is the Callaway Epic Max. Still super tight dispersion. This was so close between the Callaway and the Taylormade. The next was the Rad Speed. The Rad Speed I had a bit bigger dispersion. You see that this oval isn't as tight, but overall I was keeping it in play. If we look at the ping was kind of all over the place. So again, that is a combination between the head and the shaft. Keep in mind, if you want to dial in these shafts, you could go to a fitting facility and they will definitely tighten that up. But on the neutral setting, I just did not have fantastic results on my dispersion with the ping. The last one was the Titleist TS2. Again, not the best dispersion. And again, that comes down to spin. For someone like me, high spin is not a good thing. Again, if you have a slower club head speed, some spin might be really beneficial for you guys. For me, you can see that wasn't the case. Okay guys, if you watch this whole video, I'm recommending all 5 of these drivers. This was a very close race and all these drivers are awesome. If you're looking to upgrade your driver on a budget, any one of these 5 drivers is gonna do you good. Coming in the 5 spot is the Titleist TS2. For me, it was a little spinny. Again, I'm recommending this for slower club head speeds. Keep in mind, this is my bracket based on these 5 drivers. This thing looked awesome. It sounded great. This had the lowest carry and lowest total distance. So my average carry was 291 with a 311 rollout. Still big numbers, still numbers keeping up with today's drivers. So in the 5 spot is the Titleist TS2. Coming in the number 4 spot is the Ping G410 LST. For me, I found this head just a little too spinny off the rack. If I wanted, I could dial it down with a fitter, but based on all the results that I did on the neutral setting, which is what every other driver was on, this I found just too spinny for me. This averaged 293 carry with a 313 total distance. So it was further and hotter than the Titleist, but for me, there was just other drivers coming out ahead. Let's see what's in the 3 spot. Coming in the 3 spot is the Cobra Rad Speed. I thought this thing probably looked the coolest, the most different and the most unique for sure, and it performed quite well. I got an average 294 carry with a 324 total distance. So this thing will roll a mile. If you have a high club head speed and you want to hit some bombs, definitely consider the Cobra Rad Speed. Felt good, looked good, that's in the 3 spot. From the second I picked up this club, I knew it was capable of hitting bombs. Coming in the 2 spot is the Callaway Epic Max LS. This thing goes a mile. Looks good, feels good. I love that it has the movable weight system, so you can change it to the draw or fade bias. Just holding it, it looks awesome and it feels so good. I was averaging 300 carry with a 324.4 rollout. The rollout was just edging out the Cobra, which is why I picked this guy. If you want to hit big bombs, you can definitely consider the Callaway Epic Max LS. And wrapping up the video, coming in at the 1 spot is the first club I hit, the Taylormade M3. This makes total sense why I had such troubles parting with this driver for so many years, because this thing goes and it keeps up with a lot of drivers of today. This probably has the most movable track system that I can put the weight directly behind the club head, or I can put it on the draw or fade bias, or I can split up the 2 weights. I could have 1 weight on the draw, 1 weight up behind the face. This thing felt awesome. I was averaging 302 yards carry with a 327 rollout average. This thing was awesome, felt great, looks great, and it reminds me a lot of the BMW M3. So if you are a fan of nice cars, chances are you'll like looking at the M3. So where can you guys buy clubs like these? There's a ton of spots. The first obvious one I'm gonna mention is eBay. Take a look at eBay. You can maybe get something really good on an auction, or maybe there's a buy it now version where you can maybe submit an offer and maybe get something a little bit lower than list. A good way to find out if you're getting a good deal is to sort the listings based on sold. Then you can see what recent drivers sold for. Another great place to find drivers like this is Facebook, of all places. You can search Ping, Titleist, Callaway, Taylormade specific pages, or you can find a general page like Golf Club Traders. From there, there's tons of buyers and sellers, and chances are you can get a really good deal on one of these drivers. If you want to buy these from a retail facility, a great place is Modern Golf. We'll put a link in the description so you can see all of their used clubs. Modern Golf will offer these drivers, and at least there's like a professional looking these over, that when you get it, there's the reassurance that it's going to be a good club. You can also check places like your local buy-sell page, Kijiji, if you're in Canada, or Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. Those are all great places to try to find one of these drivers. You can also try to support your local golf community if you have a place like Golf Club Traders in Calgary. I'm sure there's stores like these all across the nation that you can walk in there and see what type of used clubs that they have. Well, there you guys have it. That is my top 5 drivers under 300 bucks. If you're new to the channel and you like club reviews like this, make sure you smash subscribe, give me a like, and we'll check in with you next time. Peace.